What is something unrealistic that you often see in movies that annoys the hell out of you? Unrealistic wealth. Typical family with one working parent has a 4-bedroom house with in-ground pool. College graduates living in some swanky penthouse on a babysitter salary. 24-year-old doctors. I used to enjoy watching reruns of the Brady Bunch when I was a kid. Now, they just make me feel a weird combination of aggravated and depressed. Overall lack of communication. I feel like 90% of all drama is coming from this in some way. Character could have prevented the whole situation if they explained one thing. But nope. There's no time to explain. Exclamation mark. Exclamation mark. When the mum prepares a feast for breakfast and everyone only takes a bite or two before rushing off. My mum would have killed me for wasting food. Also, she won't prepare a feast for breakfast. Milk and dodge in fancy jugs rather than the carton. I believe it's to avoid having brand names in the shot, but yeah, it's bizarre. The disregard for basic physics. The Fast and the Furious has entered the chat. High school scenes where there are lounges in the hallway and students are free to be wherever they want to be around the building or buildings, no matter the time of day without consequence. We had literally 4 minutes between classes to get into our lockers and across the building. Nobody was sitting down in during that. Seriously. Getting your schedule every quarter and planning out your route from class to class and figuring out which books you'd need during the 2 or 3 times you'd have time to get to your locker was like doing a calculus problem. Omniscient Bad Guys. I know you have to have the plot move forward, but dude is trying to hide in Europe and somehow the villain is always where the hero wants to go before they get there. I mean, Europe is pretty damn big, and I can't imagine getting totally lost there would be all that difficult. And then they suddenly stop being omniscient at the end of the movie, letting the protagonist save the day. People living in these gigantic New York or LA apartments while working jobs that realistically could never pay for such a nice place. And if they do have a job that could afford those places, that they would have any time to get involved in whatever is happening in the plot. Nobody opens the door 2 seconds after the doorbell rings. Nobody. Yeah, we're all inspecting who could possibly be at the house. At least 1 minute. Putting a bra on / public appropriate clothes could be another minute. And then hyping ourselves up to open the door and hope it's not a murderer. 30-second minimum. When the entire plot rests on a character not explaining something that can be explained in under 1 minute. Characters making the dumbest, most unrealistic choices just to further the plot. Unnecessary sex scenes that add nothing whatsoever to the movie. Ordering at a restaurant and only taking 1 bite and leaving. In a post-apocalyptic world, somehow all cars on the road are parked or stranded in such a way that our main character has no problem driving between them. Witness protection somehow always fails in movies. People doing CPR. Then the person who just got CPR wakes up like 10 minutes later and eats lunch. Also, movies are really bad at maintaining sterile fields in operating rooms. Defibrillators are the worst in film. Never ever used for what they actually perform. They are not meant to start a stopped heart, they are there to try and reset a heart going into fibrillation / arrhythmia. Playing video games, randomly mashing all buttons at the same time, and pressing R1/L1 and R2/L2 for no reason. And it always makes beep boop noises, or if they are playing an action game it makes generic action noises. Their horror movies they watch in rom-coms always have a raw and stock scream. Calling someone, and then instantly start talking. I don't know why exactly, but that has really bothered me. You didn't even let it ring. Also, when they don't say bye when they hang up. The old you cough, you die. My wife and I call that the best scene warning ever, since we saw a walk to remember many years ago. If you aren't the sole lead and openly acknowledge your illness, the clock is ticking. If you cough blood and weren't in a fight, same. To be fair, coughing blood is always bad sign. Gun silencers being that quiet in reality feel like the sound of someone clapping. For that matter, just about any gun being fired inside, the noise is deafening. Even in the movies you see people wearing hearing protection at a range. But then when action scenes occur, that aspect is completely thrown out. Casually strolling away from a massive explosion. They have eardrums of steel and shrapnel-proof skin. It's legit. I googled it. Someone shooting 683 rounds from a 1911 without reloading. The semi-auto muskets from Pirates of the Caribbean take the cake for that though. How bad the villains always are at shooting. Don't get me wrong, Star Wars won't be the same if Luke gets scalped by a stormtrooper 30 minutes into the first movie, but good god are they bad. Stormtroopers are overly emotional. They miss everyone. No body hair. Ever. This. And full Macup and hair always. Apocalypse. Macup and hair still done. Waking up after a full night of sleep. Macup and hair still done. Finishing up a workout. Macup and hair still done. Stalkerish behavior being portrayed as romantic. The man in a relationship being portrayed as a near-brained doofus. This is what I thought of the scene in The Notebook when he jumps on the Ferris wheel after her while she's on a date with another guy. So cute. /s. Everything is always so dark, and no one ever bothers to turn the lights on. Even when they do, it's like a 10W bulb in a warehouse that only illuminates 2 feet around it. I always see the opposite, where someone turns out the lights to go to sleep, but it's still somehow bright enough in the room to see every detail. Someone gets hit so hard that they fly through a wall. Then they get up and keep fighting. No. You're going to spend the next year learning to walk again. Yeah, especially the ninja moves. You guys never seen any Tamil movies? The physics is so bad it's good. People getting knocked out cold for an hour, then waking up and going about their day like nothing's happened. I once got knocked out for like 2 minutes and ended up sick for a month. Yeah, they use a knockout like a human pause button. So many goons would have very serious brain damage. Shows like Lost make blunt force trauma to the brainstem look like such a non-issue that if I lived in that world I might ask a friend to hit me in the back of the head if I was having a particularly difficult time sleeping one night. Everyone always answers their phone, usually on the first ring, and no matter where you are, you have perfect reception, except in horror movies. He killed 16 Czechoslovakians. Guy was an interior decorator. Not locking the damn car once they got out and start walking away. Mostly in rom-coms, people randomly running into each other out in public. Like, how small is your town that you bumped into the same person 3 days in a row at a restaurant/bar/shop? Yet all rom-coms take place in New York City. My son-in-law is a video game programmer and it drives him crazy when in cop shows/movies they use a computer to search for a match to fingerprints or a face and the screen scrolls with the images flashing on the screen. He's like, do you know how much computing power it takes to render all those images? The computer doesn't need to flash them on the screen. Exclamation mark. And all the goddamn beeping. I hate how noisy every computer application is in TV/movies. Yup, computers in Hollywood make so much sound. It's like they are playing pinball or something. Computer work is only done via vigorous typing on the keyboard. Never a single mouse click. It here. I'll learn every keyboard shortcut I can. Mouse clicks are slow. The user here. What's a mouse? It's a made up word to scare you. When two characters do something simple like glancing at each other and then the romance has started. If a man and a woman bump into each other and some music plays, that's enough to ensure the romance has begun. I bump into guys all the time. Where's my boyfriend? Question mark? Question mark? I think I know where you went wrong. Oftentimes the person has to be in a hurry, carrying many things. Bonus points if there's at least one tray full of coffee. Already frustrated. And when you bump into the guy, you have to sound initially angry, but once you look into his, more often than not, dazzling blue eyes, stop mid-sentence. Then the music plays, and boyfriend is acquired. Common mistake. LMAO during COVID, bumping into someone immediately sends them in the other direction. But I'll be sure to bring my phone to play soft music while after. To be fair, if I bump into someone and they started playing some rom-com music while staring at me, it would definitely make me have a good laugh. Great. I'll be trying that tomorrow. When the plot completely ignores the events that just happened to take a wild twist. Everybody acting like the heroine is plain. She's wearing glasses and a baggy sweater and a ponytail, but her face is perfect. Her teeth are perfect. Her skin is perfect, and she hasn't got an ounce of fat anywhere, but she has paint on her overalls. She's got glasses and a ponytail. Big glasses. She's hideous. Throw her in the pit with the other mutants. I hate when someone is driving and they're talking to the passenger without looking at the road for like 10 seconds at a time. That one's so good. In like, they're gonna crash. They're gonna crash. Oh, they made it to their destination somehow. Fine. The way gifts are wrapped. They're always in boxes with actual lids, like shoe boxes, not ones with flaps, and the lid is wrapped separately from the box so when they open the present, they just lift the lid. Also, if there's a ribbon wrapped around it, the ribbon's not taped on and slides right off. Has anyone ever done this in real life? Exclamation mark. Tried it once. It looked great, but it was a pain in the ass to do, and it took forever. High schoolers who look like ducking supermodels, or even people in their 30s playing high schoolers. I watched 13 Reasons Why on Netflix, and I immediately thought the guy who plays Tony was like 31. Killing of nameless characters like it's nothing. Then pretending like the protagonist is a hero and a good person. Also sacrificing hundreds of nameless characters just to save a love interest. I've noticed in movies where the hero kills a lot of nameless people they frequently have their faces covered as well. There is usually some believable reason for the mask/helmet/etc. But I've always thought that was done to dehumanize them a bit, so you don't turn on the hero for killing like 100 people in 10 minutes. Hanging up the phone without saying anything at the end of a conversation. I work with these people. They're out there. My mom hangs up while I'm talking. How they fantasize relationships between men and women. No one acts like that, and it can put unreasonable expectations in the head of teenagers and young adults who are just starting to date. Yay. Grand gestures are great and all, if you want to attract the attention of the, more often than not, girl of your dreams. But it could easily come off as creepy and stalkerish if the girl isn't a grand gestures type of person. They also make it seem like knowing basic facts about the person gives you points or something, and you must love them back. And if you say no, then you're the bad guy. Because look how plucky and nice and kind the protagonist is. If only you give them a chance. I say this as a former dumb teenage guy who took those movies too seriously. I always enjoy watching lab scenes. People looking into microscopes that aren't even turned on or plugged in. No one has gloves on or their hair pulled back. Unrelated formulas scrolled on whiteboards. And always, I mean all ducking ways. If they are in a lab, be it a biology lab, physics, what have you, there will be chemistry glassware too. I mean, I did my PhD in physics and all the labs I ever worked in had glassware everywhere. If you really want to make a lab look realistic though, throw in random equipment from 3 or 4 decades ago. My first advisor had a PDP-11 shoved into the back corner and another computer in active use running Windows 3. Haha. Misunderstandings with dire consequences that could easily be cleared up if the protagonist just said something, anything, and it's always in the last 20 minutes of the movie and takes up, at most, 5 to 10 minutes. Childbirth. Water breaks. You go immediately to the hospital. It's time to push. She pushes 3 times and immediately reverts to her pre-pregnancy state. Also, her hair and makeup are immaculate. A bonus in unbelievability for surprise twins. A sudden marriage proposal. Or a newborn who is clearly 6 months or older. It's probably for the best that they don't use actual newborn babies for filming. If 30-year-olds can play teenagers, they should have teenagers playing babies. No matter the location or how crowded it is, there's always a parking space right exactly where someone's going to. That's an acceptable break from reality. It would be boring if the actors drove around for an hour trying to find a parking place. Wouldn't it? Horses neighing all the time. Maying when they're running. Maying when they're eating. Horses don't neigh that much. The horse screaming her head off directly outside my window. Because her breakfast is the IGHT minutes latte. And who spent the entire morning yelling at the trees and kicking the side of her barn. Would like to disagree. There's never a platonic relationship between a guy and a girl. It's always romantic by the end. This is why I love Finding Nemo. They don't force a romance between Molly and Dory. They're just allies who help each other on a journey. The good guy's always winning. All your bad guys die and your good guys survive. We can tell what's gonna happen by page and age 5. Weddings getting interrupted by some dramatic gesture or called off at the last minute seems to be about 10,000 times more likely to happen in media than in real life. Out of the 30+ weddings I have been to, I don't think a single one has done that. If there is anyone here who does not think these two should be married, speak now or forever hold your peace. Apostrophe. Hey PSSST. Please subscribe and like.